Hi, I'm John Twist of University Motors. Today is November 14th, 2014. The elections are over. Hooray, no more harassing phone calls for at least a year. Today I want to talk about rack and pinions. Now if you've got a late model MGB, you can buy a replacement rack if you want. You can always fix the old ones. They come into a million little pieces and you can take them all apart and fix them. And we haven't seen such horrible problems with MGB racks. But this is a rack out of a TD. And I want to go over with you just a little bit about what we do here. This one's part way through the process. First of all, we have to unscrew the inner tie rods from the rack. So that's pretty easily done. And then the whole thing is disassembled and taken apart. We have the rack remachined on top. Can you see how nice and flat this is? Because when the rack is sitting in its normal place inside the rack housing, then right here in the middle is where the damper presses down on top of the rack to hold the rack tight against the pinion, and that's where all the wear occurs, is right here. So we sent this out to our machine shop. They've got a big magnetic base. They anchored it magnetically to the base and milled off just as little as they possibly could here, but making it flat again, because if there's a depression here, then you can set the thing up and it feels just good when you're turning right in here, but as soon as you get out to the edges, then the rack tightens up and you cannot have tight steering. That's a real bad deal. So get this guy out, have him machined. Now these guys come apart with extreme difficulty. There's some pinholes and there's a special tool, but it never works. So we use a vise and a pipe wrench and two people and a technique that I've developed, and we're able to spin these things open, and then we lap. Now you can see the dull color here. I put lapping compound on the tie rod and lap that against this housing on the inside so that it's nice and free and it's not caught anywhere. And when it's reattached, it can have no end float. The MGBs are so much simpler than these because they got a spring inside them. These use these shims here that you have to put behind here, and oh boy, setting up is so tediously difficult because you end up having to surface stuff over and over and over to get the fit just right. Then when it's all done and it's all tightened back up again, then we chuck this back up in the lathe and spin it on the lathe and smooth all the grabber marks and so forth so that it looks nice and smooth on the outside. But you can see on here the marks where we grab this thing in the vise. It's a real task to do. And then we have the rack housing. So the pinion has to fit inside the rack housing, but the pinion wears right in here. This is hardened metal, but this is cast iron, so this wears a lot. So I ream it out. I've got all these reamers, so we have to ream the rack housing out, and then we put in a new bushing, which fits it, and I'm not completely done here, that fits over here and fit this guy in. And sometimes you take some pushing to get into place. But even with the new bushing, there's still a little bit of free play out here on the end because I haven't remachined the shaft. You have to weld the shaft and grind it back down again because it's hardened, because this diameter is the same as here. Otherwise, you just reduce the diameter here and put in a smaller bushing. But this stuff is all cleaned up. It's all cleaned up on the lathe. You know, all this stuff has been powder coated. This has been powder coated. These guys, the tie rods have been powder coated. So we do a real nice job. It's not inexpensive. This easily takes 4 hours to do, but it's either that, which is $400 plus some parts, or it's a new one, which doesn't look original. You know, if you want your car to look original, you got to have the original rack back in place. You always have form and function. And it's, almost always you have to have function. I did have a guy come in here not too long ago, and he said, I really don't care how the car runs, it's a trailer queen. I just have to be able to drive it on and off the trailer. But those people are very, very few indeed. Most everybody wants function, but along with function, a lot of people want form, and they want it to look as nice as it can or as original as it can. So if you're after originality and you want to have your rack and pinion rebuilt, here's the place to send it. We'll do it. Get it powder coated, make it look nice, and operate correctly. And I've got, we've got all the tools. We got all these tools that we use for piloting, and I put this down here so when I'm boring this through to accept a bushing, I can pilot. So it's an interesting process, but we can do it, do a real nice job of it. So hey, 2015 is looking to be a really exciting year, and we have our 40th birthday party in January. We have technical seminars in February, and I've got a whole list of places I'm going to be. If you go on our website, you look at our calendar, I'm going to be in Texas, I'm going to be in Frankenmuth, Michigan, I'm going to be, oh gosh, Niagara Falls, Altoona, PA, always. And for those of you who see me out in Carlisle, I'll be there for Cars at Carlisle this year at the import show. And so until later, safety fast.